Dreamers everywhere, welcome to the Dueling Disney podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andee Zomerman.
And I'm the other one of your hosts, Aldee. Sorry, I sound weird today.
You sound weird because you sound weird and you look weird. Well, you always
sound weird and
weird.
I look weird. I got a new computer, so I have to work on my computer setup.
Yeah. Don't worry about doing it before the podcast.
My normal microphone is not plugged in, so I'm using AirPods. And for whatever reason, for the first time in the year and a half I've lived in this apartment, the sun is in my back window.
And for real,
so
I don't
podcast listeners.
Yeah.
So I've managed to alienate both our podcast listeners and our YouTube watchers.
Oh, other than that, how's your week going?
It's going good. It's going. I mean, I say that just because that's the thing you say. It's. I've had a very long week at work. I worked at least 3 12 to 14-hour days this week, so I'm very happy that it is Saturday as of the date of this recording. And so far, nobody has called me today and said, "Hey, I need you to come back to campus real quick."
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Hey, what were you and I doing 28 years ago right now?
Weren't you getting married?
Yes.
Nice.
I was getting married 28 years ago.
You were getting
married.
About
now. And you were there too.
And I was failing to pick up on any bridesmaids.
They were all spoken for. I don't think I had any single bridesmaids.
What's that about? What is that about?
The last of my friends to get hitched, except for you. I don't know.
And here it is, 28 years later, and still. How was your Disney week?
It was good. Actually,
is it all anniversary related? Because you had I don't know if our listeners know this, and we may want to talk about this extensively. You had the most Disney wedding I've ever been involved in.
To be fair, did you have any other Disney weddings that you were involved in?
No, but this is the stuff we say. We have a podcast. We're supposed to entertain people, talk about Disney.
I don't know that they're all that entertained. I don't know why they listen. They do though, and I'm very excited about that. So thank you, all two of you. I can't even say it's my family because I don't even think my family listens, but
I guarantee my family doesn't listen. To be fair, my family doesn't know what a podcast is, so.
That's fair. No, in fact, this anniversary, he's not even here. He's in Michigan, helping his dad out. So that's what you do at your 28.
So this is love.
So this is love. Anyway, but Disney Week was good. I didn't plan for it to be this, but since I had the TV to myself, I don't think I've ever watched an episode in your life, and I'll be surprised if you know who they are, but do you know who the Wiggles are? No, you don't.
No. I have a vague sense that it's like a band for kids or something.
Yes. Am
I right? And that's mostly because my brain is like, what could the Wiggles possibly be that's not filthy? And I said, it must be a band for kids.
That's right. It is the band for kids.
And it's a Disney thing?
Well, yeah, because they were really popular in the 90s in Australia, and Disney Channel brought them, Disney Channel. We didn't have Disney Plus then. Disney Channel brought them over to do the kids stuff, and that's how we found them. And literally, like, our whole life was the Wiggles. Just one of those things that when you have kids, you're into whatever is on at the time, right? Like, just depending on what's on when you have your children. And so there were a lot of things that I missed because my kids were born when they were born, things before and things after that I didn't really get all that hooked on. But the Wiggles was huge. And when the kids got old enough, I didn't think much of it. I had heard in the news that one of them got sick and had to drop out. And I really didn't follow. Like, for all I knew, they had disbanded years ago. I had no idea that the franchise.
So they haven't done a Wiggles behind the music where they all talk about the drugs and things that were happening backstage.
That's what I thought this documentary on the Wiggles was going to be. I thought it was going to be that. It wasn't.
Where the picture freezes and goes black and white, and then they go,
yes.
But they were about to find out that lifestyle had its dark side.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I expected it to be. 100%.
Yeah. And it was
And
that,
so,
right?
well, no, I was thrilled to find out that yes, while they did have their dark times, just the commitment to being positive for children, preschoolers, namely, and how it did tear their families a little bit, because I mean, even though they weren't performing for adults, they were still on the road constantly, and that was their source of income.
I would hope
I
less groupies than your standard rock and roll tour.
Or different kinds of groupies, maybe. I don't
Not the
know.
kind
I
of
don't know.
groupies you want showing up, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, I will say that I expected to watch the documentary and get some, I mean, there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I expected it to be darker. And I am happy to say that it wasn't. I thought the documentary was fantastic. And anyone who had children that watched the Wiggles, which I guess really is before my kids were born up until now, because there's still the franchise. I just had no idea it was still going on. And just the pure love of these, just educating children through song, it just touched every part of my heart. And I am so happy to hear that they are, I don't know, it was just cool. And so it was my Disney
Still
week.
wiggling. Please tell me
Still wiggling.
they named the documentary Still Wiggling.
No, they
If
named it
not,
Hot
they
Potato.
just left money on the table.
No. They named it Hot Potato, which, if you were a Wiggles fan, you would know is a perfect name for the Wiggles. Anyway, that
better
was my
than
Disney
Still
week.
Wiggling.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. That just sounds all kinds of weird. Anyway, it was a happy surprise. And so I told, I got on social media. I'm like, oh my gosh, if anybody had anything to do with the Wiggles ever, you have to watch this documentary. So you don't have to watch it because you never had anything to do with it. But anybody that did needs to watch this documentary. It's lovely. They're lovely people. And I love that education of children is so important. It made me happy.
Well, they are Australian.
So, yeah, I know. And
well, that's nice.
They have universal health care, so why wouldn't they be happy?
They also have, dangerous animals every 5 feet, so, they really need to have
or
universal
cute
healthcare.
ones. I mean,
or both.
The koala.
Dangerous and cute.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true too. Big spiders.
Riddled with, herpes, I think.
All right, on to your Disney week.
Well, my Disney week is only tertiarily Disney week, and it's tertiarily Disney week because it's a follow-up from our conversation from our D23 registration conversation of a couple weeks back. So this week was what they call Hotel Apocalypse for Comic-Con, in which you go in and select for your hotels. Because I have professional registration, I don't have to go through the rigmarole of getting Comic-Con tickets every year, because, as long as I keep my professional registration, I get complimentary tickets. Or even if I don't get those complimentary tickets, since I'm doing panels in general, I'll have those tickets. So I don't generally need to go through the craziness of getting tickets, but everybody's got to go through the hotel selection process, which was this week. And I was naturally comparing it with the D23 process in ways that it is both superior and inferior to the D23 process.
Inferior?
The way it is inferior to the D23 process is I was able to get a hotel for D23 way before tickets were even on sale. I just went on the website, made a reservation. Yes. The hotel part, yeah.
Yes.
You didn't have to have a whole separate lottery process for the hotel for D23, largely because Anaheim is lousy with hotels, right? It is geared up for hotels. True. And San Diego, less so, particularly hotels that are within walking distance of the convention center. The way that it was superior to D23 is the hotel selection process. They have a whole website that extensively talks about this. These are the steps to get a hotel. This is where to go to find your information. This is how to make your selection process. There are a podcast that they put out, either they themselves or people who the unofficial guide to Comic-Con about, okay, this is what you need to do for the hotel process. So the hotel process was Wednesday. I had to be on between 8 and 9. I was on between 8 and 9. I was put into the room at 9 o'clock a.m. There was here's the thing. Anybody who went through the hotel process knows that some people get it, some people don't. So that's not really, But instantly, once 9 o'clock hit, I was put into the waiting room. I got in to do my hotel selections about 10 minutes later.
Okay.
They pull up a list of the hotels that are still available. You pick up to 12. And
Right.
then at the
Okay.
bottom, it says, if none of your hotels are available, do you want to just not get a hotel? Do you want a hotel on the route? Do you want any hotel? They give you all sorts of options so that once you leave that form, all of your options that you have at least been submitted.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't know what I got, because then they go, okay, you're not going to hear back until next Monday. Next
Yeah.
Monday, people who got a hotel will get emails saying whether or not they got hotels
Yeah.
and where those
Mm-hmm.
hotels are and things of that sort. So in that part, I thought they did a lot better job if you compare that hotel lottery with the D23 ticket lottery. I just think Comic Con's been doing it for so many years that they've
Mm-hmm.
got it more like laid down a little bit easier. And even if I don't get a hotel through that process, I already have an Airbnb backed up. But you know me, I don't particularly like Airbnb, so I would love to cancel that Airbnb. And also, I also like hotels just because, you know what? I'm not going to have any hidden fees. Somebody's going to make the bed. I don't Airbnbs. I don't get why people like Airbnbs,
I
but
do. I like
I'll,
Airbnbs way better than hotels. Way
oh
better.
God, I hate
Way
them.
better.
I feel so awkward. I feel like I'm in somebody else's house because I am.
Well, you
I don't
are,
like it.
but you can pick, like, I like going to the Airbnbs that are either run by property management companies or like, it's definitely a guest house. The people don't live there, and you can
I
tell,
mean,
like,
yeah, but it's like, here's the rules, and don't use our dishes, and don't do this,
what?
and blah de blah, and then clean
Okay,
up
I've
15
never had that.
times better than you're going to clean up if you're in your own house, and all kinds of extra fees. And you know what I like to do? Go to the hotel. I ride to the hotel whenever I want. I don't have to worry about when I'm getting keys.
Nobody gets
And
keys
when I'm done,
anymore.
I leave. I
Oh my
leave
God,
when
you
I'm
haven't
done.
gotten an Airbnb for like 13 years.
I
Airbnb,
don't
you don't
think
even need a
Airbnb
key. You don't have to
existed
talk to
13 years
anybody.
ago.
Well, I don't know where
I
you're talking about. You
I'm
go to
just
the
saying.
Airbnb, you plug in your little number, you get in, and you have a
I'm
kitchen
just
and
saying,
you have a shower.
Airbnb horror stories are plenty.
So are
Not that I
hotel
haven't
horror
even talked about the
stories.
racism piece. The piece where like
Okay,
black people show up and they're like, okay, you can't stay here.
how would they know? They're not even there.
Yeah, and yet it happens.
I
Do
know. I
yourself
mean,
a favor. Look up Airbnb slash
no.
racism and see what pops up.
No. I know what you're saying is true. And well, of course it is. And I know that that's there. And I've heard about that happening. Like, even when you see the name of someone and if you assume
Mm-hmm.
the name of someone maybe
Mm-hmm.
of a different ethnicity or race than you are expecting, whatever that may be. I get it. And it's definitely something I've never had to deal with. But also for Airbnbs, I do the Airbnbs that are run by property management companies. I'm not saying that they're not racist. They might be too. But I want to plug in my number and I want to get in but I like having the space. Now there's only one of you and I get it. There's two of us,
Uh,
but even what,
sometimes you don't know.
yeah, I do. Um, that's why at Disney we have the DVC because I want my space.
Yeah, but at the
Yeah,
DVC, it works like a hotel, checking in and checking out.
most do. Most Airbnbs do now. At least the
I
ones that
mean,
we
hey,
go
look, I
to.
have an Airbnb reservation right now. And I'll also say if Airbnb wants to sponsor us, I love them and they're wonderful people.
Please.
But I have not had good experience with Airbnb and I don't like
All
it.
right. I'll
And
give
so
you
I'm going to
that.
give up my Airbnb
All right.
if I get a hotel. And
Okay.
honestly, I do like the ease of a hotel. I just never understood. It's like, hey, we've got a kitchen. I'm like, yeah, I've got DoorDash. I don't need a kitchen. It's
Okay. That's
particularly
good for
for
you.
Comic Con and D23, where all I'm going to use the room for is to go in late at night and sleep. That's really all I need.
I got a hotel that has a little kitchenette in it because I don't want. Okay, here's my thing. I don't want to have to buy breakfast. I don't want to have to stand in line with all of Anaheim or all of San Diego at the closest Starbucks to get a freaking microwaved egg and a coffee. And last time we were at D23, that Starbucks line was like 2 hours
It was
long.
insane. It was
And
insane.
I don't want that. I want to get
So
up
when we're
and
at
when I
D23, you will make a breakfast and bring it to me on the way into the. Is
I
that what you're
got
saying?
Embassy Suites. They got breakfast in that hotel. But my coffee, I will not stand in line for. My coffee, I will get up when my eyes are barely open, and I will pour whatever I have to pour in. I will have my coffee, and I will get back in my bed where I am comfortable, and I will be sipping my coffee while looking at my social media or my news, whatever I'm into at the time. I need that. I hate like hotels. Some hotels have coffee makers, but I want to eat my little oatmeal in the morning. I don't want to have to like go somewhere, wait for them to bring me the food. Ugh, hate it.
Yeah. You know what I like? Hey, I've been gone all day and I get back and the bed's made. It's
Yeah, I get
awesome.
that too. Well, no, you're right.
Oh, it's because Ed does it.
No, he doesn't. Give me a break. Oh my god. Oh my god. All right. Well, you have fun. Can't wait to hear what hotel you get. Where was your Airbnb? Well, how close is it?
My Airbnb is actually right by Balboa Park,
Oh,
but
you're
it's like
insane.
a block from one of the shuttle stops. So the
Oh,
Airbnb location is perfect and the
yeah.
rate is great. But I don't like Airbnbs, so
I'm surprised the rate is great because when I was looking, they were so expensive for that week. So,
yeah, I don't know if this person just didn't figure it out, but it was a
oh, I
really
don't
good
know.
rate.
But I'm
Because
gonna
most
guess.
people who have Airbnbs in San Diego like quadruple the cost during Comic
Hmm.
Con.
Yeah, or they leave their home during
But
that
then it's
week and
like,
run it
then
out.
I'm not gonna pay for it. So
Uh,
I mean, and by cheap, I mean it was comparable to the cost of a Comic Con
Oh
hotel
no,
rate.
you actually just remind. Now I know why we have such a difference in why we like or don't like Airbnbs. Now you just reminded me how much you're willing to pay for something.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you get the crappy Airbnbs. That's why
Mm.
your experience with Airbnbs sucks because you got like
Yeah,
some guy's bedroom.
I'm one person. Why am I don't want to rent somebody's whole house.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I get it now. I get it now. All right, we're good.
Fine, 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 fine,
What
fine.
did you find? What did you find on Disney Plus? We're talking today about not necessarily on Disney Plus,
Yeah, it doesn't have
but
to be ended. Although
mm,
all of mine are, but yeah.
I think mine are too, actually. So Al and I, because Al gets mad we're not talking about movies enough. Apparently,
This isn't a Disney Parks podcast, although like 75 to 90% of our episodes are about Disney Parks.
I know. I'm sorry because I like being there. I also like watching the movies, but I just don't watch them as much as you. But there are, like you said, and I was reminded last night of some underrated movies that are
Some
so
hidden gems,
dang
I'd like to
good.
say.
Hidden gems. That's a good one. That's a good one. So
And
hidden
how did you define
gems.
it for yourself? Like I have a pretty
Mm,
specific definition. How did you define
I had a hard time defining it actually because I would look at a movie and I would go, that everybody knows that movie. And I'm like, just because I watched it a million times doesn't mean that everybody knows that movie. And so I actually went in to see, I went to like Wikipedia or the internet and saw like what the reception was to the movie like at first. Um there are some movies that I really have no clue if they're underrated or not because I connect with Disney people. And so just because it's popular with Disney people doesn't mean it's popular with everyone. And so what reminded me of or what spurred on this notion of doing a movie or can't even talk. Doing a topic of underrated movies or hidden gems was, and if you don't mind, I'll go first because it kind of leads into that.
Yeah.
I have been seeing there is a wonderful massage therapist that I go to once a month, and is just amazing. And we were talking a little bit last night, and he, mentioned that his favorite type of music was jazz, and he knows about my Disney thing. I go, so do you love soul? And he goes, well, I haven't seen it. I'm like, you haven't seen Soul? Like, what do you mean you haven't seen Soul? Like, you love jazz music and you have not seen the Soul movie? And so he's like, no. And, maybe I should watch it. Then there's me like, what?
So good. Yeah. Yeah.
Soul is really good. And it got a bad rap because of COVID. It was supposed to release
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't, and they held off, and then they finally released it on Disney Plus on Christmas Day instead of June when it was supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
released. And things got crazy. Things didn't, that pandemic and all.
Yeah, I
So,
love Soul. I
I do
love,
too.
love, love that movie. And they've been releasing a lot of the Disney movies that got released during the pandemic to theaters. And
Yeah, I
so
did see
I went
that.
and saw Soul a couple weeks back because it's one of those movies. And another one of my movies I'll talk about was also one of those pandemic releases that actually a couple that I thought I loved on my TV, but when I went to the theater, Soul, if you haven't had a chance to see it in the theater, it's such a beautiful movie. It's
Yeah, I kind of
really a
missed out on that.
gorgeous, gorgeous movie that if you didn't see it in the theaters, which almost nobody did, it's
Right.
worthwhile. And I also love just as a black person, like it was very recognizable to me culturally. Like I
Yeah.
recognize those faces and those people and those relationships. They seemed very real to me. I loved Soul. I thought it
Well,
was
and your dad's a
super good.
musician.
My dad's a musician, yeah. And you know, not only that, but like the barbershop scene is amazing. Just like how barbershops are and how like conversations that happen and things of that sort. It's amazing. I
Yeah.
love Soul, and I also think it's underrated. And I wonder if it hadn't come out during the pandemic, I genuinely think it would have done so much better
Oh, I do
and be so
too.
much more of a part of the conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tina Fey was hilarious in it. There were a lot of good lines in there.
And the
Fucking
cast
makes
was like top
the
notch. Jamie Foxx and Tina
mm-hmm.
Fey. And like people don't even remember that movie came out.
I know. I know, it was so funny though. It was so good. Oh, see, it makes me want to watch it again tonight, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so anyway, that was my number one was Soul, and that I mean that just spurred it on from last night. Like, wow, if you are the casual Disney fan or just a person who happens to like some Disney movies, um, what are you gonna not have seen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My
Yeah.
first one, and I think I'm going to try as much as possible to go in the order of when they were released because I don't know
Oh.
that I could rank them because they're all really increasingly wonderful films. And this one,
Well, how
people are
did
going to
you
be like,
define it? You
so,
have
oh
to
yeah,
say how
that's
you
true. My
define it, because
definition was Disney movies that somehow, I think it encompasses your definition that just didn't get their due when they were released, but also Disney movies that somehow have escaped the cultural conversation. So it
mm-hmm.
might have been successful when it was released, even, but when people think of Disney, this is just not the first thing that comes to mind, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so for me, it's sort of those hidden gems, those ones that, like, if you think about it, we're like, yeah, that was actually really good. But for whatever reason, whenever we talk about Disney, and these are movies that we haven't, I don't think most of the movies on my list we haven't talked about at all on this podcast. And we've
Mm-hmm.
been to this podcast over 5 years, right? And this first one, I am truly amazed that we've not talked about this one other than incidentally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this first one is going to be the most controversial in terms of a lot of people are going to be like, this isn't underrated, but I think it truly is. And my first one is Bambi. I think
You think it's
Bambi is a,
underrated?
I do think about it. How often do people talk about Bambi? People talk about Snow White. They talk about Pinocchio. They talk about Fantasia. The only thing that people talk about Bambi is the killing of the mother.
That is not true. They talk about like Flower and Thumper. Everybody like
I don't
quotes
think so.
them.
I think Bambi is significantly underrated. I don't think it's a movie that people real like when was the last time you watched it? Like I
Oh,
was noticing like I
not.
love because as I was doing this, I was just looking at clips of stuff and I was like, I haven't watched Bambi in like 20 years. And then
Yeah,
I
I
was
haven't
looking at
watched it
clips,
in a
I was
long
like,
time.
holy smokes, this is a really good movie.
But I haven't watched Snow White in a million years. Like I haven't watched that
I've
in a
watched
long
Snow
time
White in the
either.
last year.
Oh, I
I've watched
haven't.
Pinocchio in the last 2 months. And Fantasia, I watch segments of at least once a month because Fantasia is like that. You can just be like, "Oh, I'm going
Yeah.
to watch the Dance of the Flowers," right?
It's a good
Um,
background movie too. I have it
right.
on in the background a lot. Mm-hmm.
But Bambi is like just this pure, delightful movie that I don't think is a huge part of most conversations about Disney because when people talk about that era, they talk about the four
Yeah.
classics and they talk about
Mm-hmm.
Snow White being the first and they talk about the technical brilliance of Pinocchio and they talk
Mm-hmm.
about the ambition of Fantasia and Bambi. It's the and Peggy of the original four classic era Disney films. And so I just want to shine a little light on Bambi and say I'm probably going to watch that tonight or tomorrow because I got show tickets tonight
Do
to just
you?
catch up on it. Mm-hmm.
What are you going to see tonight?
I'm gonna go see Hairspray. Good Morning Baltimore and all that.
I love Hairspray.
I mean, I've seen it on stage before, so I'm excited about it. And
I
there's a
love
new food
Hairspray.
hall across the street from the theater, so I'm
Oh,
excited about that
even
too.
more exciting. Oh,
Yeah,
I love Hairspray.
yeah,
Love it.
it's
Um,
lovely. What's your next?
I'm gonna say The Fox and the Hound. I love The Fox and the Hound. I think it's a very good friendship story. I'm not going to totally spoil it if you haven't seen it, but it has a sadder ending. And I think that that's why kids don't watch it over and over again, or why now parents, well, even like grandparents don't show it to their
Mm-hmm.
grandchildren because it's not like a, it's an ending.
It's one of those things where I've always thought that kids can handle sad stuff more than parents like to let them handle
Mm,
sad stuff.
hmm
And I'll also say The Fox and the Hound is maybe the best film of that Disney doldrum era
Yeah.
between Walt passing and The Little Mermaid. It's probably the best of those films.
I might challenge you on that in a second and with my next one. But The Fox and the Hound, I think it's a beautiful story. And the song When You're the Best of Friends comes
Yeah,
from
good
that.
song.
And I think that's a really good song. I like it and I get it. It's sad at the end. So, but
Yeah, but I like a good sad movie. I mean, it's not like Bambi's a laugh riot until,
it's true too. That's true too. And maybe that's why, it's underrated or we don't watch them over and over and over again because it's
Mhm.
not like they lived happily ever after. Well, maybe
It's
Bambi did. I don't know. Was
I
there a
mean, yeah,
Bambi
at the
too?
end of Bambi,
No
but
clue.
it's pretty dark there in the middle.
Yeah, it is. So I don't know. But I think The Fox and the Hound is a good one. So
Nice.
yeah.
My next is a documentary that I love, and I don't. You may or may not have seen this. I want to say you've seen this, but it's pretty movie focused, so it's not very park focused. So you may not have seen it. And it's a documentary called "Waking Sleeping Beauty," and
Oh,
it's
I haven't
all
seen it yet.
about it's
I know.
amazing. And so few people have seen it, but if you are a student of Disney, it
Mm-hmm.
is a documentary about what happened when the they almost shut down the feature animation period.
Mm-hmm.
They moved the feature animation group completely off of the lot of the Walt Disney Studios, put them in a couple of trailers off the lot, and said, go make a movie. And they made The Little Mermaid. And it's all about I would say it's all about the creation of The Little Mermaid and the making of The Little Mermaid, but it's really about this period in the studio's history in which nobody had faith in the thing that created the Disney studio, and how this small group of animators, just left to their own devices without a lot of oversight, created the Disney Renaissance, which changed literally everything from
Yeah.
a point of being kicked off of the lot that they built. And it's got a lot of footage of Roy Disney just really having to fight the rest of the company to keep feature animation alive, and the decisions that they were making and the budget that they had for The Little Mermaid, which was very little. And it's a wonderful documentary. And there's so many, and I'm a lover of documentaries. There's a lot of great documentaries on Disney Plus that people watch a lot, like Howard, which is a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful
That's a good one.
documentary, or The Imagineering Story. They've got some great documentaries on there, but this
Yeah.
is one that almost nobody has seen. And I just think it's wonderful. And it's such a critical moment in the history of Disney, called Waking Sleeping Beauty. And I just think it's a terrific film.
I'm writing it down because as I was coming up with my list, I was telling you that there was a lot of movies that I was like, God, I never saw that. And for one reason or another, Waking Sleeping Beauty is one of them. I remember that you and I were talking about it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch it. It's not that I didn't want to watch it. It's like I got distracted by something somewhere
Mm-hmm.
somehow and it never came up again. And so maybe tonight
Well,
I'll watch
and
that.
again, it's an underrated gem in that people don't talk about it. Like, it's
Yeah.
not one of those, like when Howard came out, everybody was talking about it. And
Yeah.
for good reason. Like, it was a wonderful documentary, and it was about, a really talented and wonderful human being.
Oh, you're not talking about Howard the Duck?
No. Howard the Duck, completely different. Now, hey, don't get me wrong. I like a good Howard the Duck comic. That movie was no good, but I like a good Howard the Duck comic. Um, but and deservedly so. But this is just one that people don't talk about, and I think it's wonderful. I mean, they talk about Frank and Ollie, another great
Yeah.
documentary.
Yeah.
But those have received their due, and I just don't think Waking Sleeping Beauty has. And it's a hidden gem. If you have the means, I highly
I
recommend you
highly
watch it.
recommend it. Okay. Hidden gems. Hidden gems. Hidden gems. I have okay, wait, before I go on, because did you do the whole Disney franchise, or did you just stick with Disney films?
Mine, let me look. I mean, I didn't intentionally do it, but it's pretty much Disney. I mean,
Okay, I'm gonna stick with Disney then.
If Waking Sleeping Beauty counts, right?
But we're not
It's
doing
a
like Marvel or
documentary.
Star Wars or anything like
No,
that.
nothing like that.
Save
We can
that
do
for
a whole
another time.
separate one of those, but I don't know that
That's
there's
true.
been enough Marvel or Star Wars movies to really say which of those
I
would
disagree. I disagree. I think there are, but or at least that didn't get the credit is due kind of thing. I don't
be
know.
hidden. I mean, I thought the Marvels was fantastic, and people
So did I.
really didn't like that movie. I thought it was wonderful. I also
I
thought
did too.
She-Hulk was great and Ms. Marvel, but horse of a
I did
different
too.
color. What's your next one?
My next one is Robin Hood, and so I would challenge you because Robin Hood was 1973, which was after Walt's death, and The Fox and the Hound was good, but I got to say that Robin Hood kills it for me. It's funny.
I like Robin Hood a lot.
The
Fox and the
songs are
Hound a
great.
little better, but yeah.
Do you really? Well, that
It's just
makes sense to me.
I mean, Robin Hood is like I love it, but it's a cool little story that we know how it ends.
Yeah.
As opposed to The Fox and the Hound, is like a more moving, but it's it's taste or whatever. But I love Robin Hood.
The animation in Robin Hood, I think, is fantastic.
I mean, it is. It's the best from the company's history because they stole all of the animation from other movies.
Oh man, I learned a couple things about Robin Hood though that I did not know before. As I was looking up what year it was made, I didn't realize, because of course Robin Hood in the movies, Robin Hood and His Merry Men, I didn't realize that they kind of took the Merry Men out of the Disney movie because they wanted a buddy flick like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and so they put Little John and Robin Hood is that buddy flick. I thought that was really interesting. I never really thought about it before. And then the little kids in the kid animals were kind of like the little lackeys. I just thought it was a cute idea, and I never really put two and two together to think about that.
And
so
unlike some other Robin Hoods, he could speak with an English accent.
Oh my goodness gracious. I don't know. Prince John was hilarious.
I think Robin Hood is like the
comedy.
best of if you just want to smile for 75 minutes, Robin Hood. There you go.
Yeah. I really like it.
The villains in Robin Hood are the best. Yeah.
So great because they're funny. They're funny. So great.
Yeah. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
All right.
I was
just
thinking, yes, it is your turn.
You were just thinking what? What were you thinking?
Oh, just about Prince John wanting to be the head supreme leader and then being a big baby all the time and sucking his thumb. Just
Does that remind you of anyone?
Foreshadowing of maybe.
He's also pretty orange. Anyway.
He is so orange. He is so orange. So incredibly babyish and orange.
We don't want to alienate certain listeners, but
Oh, they're not listening.
Yeah.
They are not listening to us. Yes.
My next, and I hope you've seen this. I really hope you've seen this, but it is from the same period as Soul. It was another pandemic release.
I haven't seen it. I know what you're talking about.
I didn't watch it for like a year. And then when I finally watched it, I loved it. Luca.
Oh, Luca. That's not what I thought you were going to say. I saw Luca.
Yeah, I know you thought I was going to say. Yeah. Luca was gorgeous.
Luca was really pretty.
Gorgeous movie.
Yeah.
Really touching. This wonderful relationship between these boys. And I just remember watching that movie and going, why did it take me a year to watch this? And also just, it predated Encanto it was what I call one of the Bruno movies, because for some reason, the name
Yeah,
Bruno, and
I know.
in Luca, the phrase was Silencio Bruno.
Yeah. Isn't
And
that
Bruno was just,
funny?
getting the business in Disney movies.
Yeah.
But Luca, like, they say that water is maybe the most difficult thing to animate. I thought I could watch Luca with the sound off. It is a
It was, yeah,
gorgeous,
the art was
beautiful
gorgeous.
movie. And just a
Mm-hmm.
lovely, like, it's one of those movies where you're like, I just want to have a lovely time, like go on a vacation without leaving my living room.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, oh my God, it was so good.
Yeah, it was good.
So good.
But let me ask you, and I know people do, I'm not one of them, but it's not one that I watched over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
I was like a one and done with that. And I don't know why. It was really pretty.
And I've never been to Italy,
Maybe,
so maybe that's it. Like, it makes me want to go to Italy.
well, totally made me want to go to Italy. Yeah, it was really pretty. I need to watch it again. I do remember being enamored with the animation. Yeah. So that was, you're right. That was an underrated one for sure.
And the whole
Uh,
movie, I was waiting for him to say he lived on the second floor, and they never did. But despite that, I really enjoyed it.
Oh, well, my next
Dad
one,
jokes, everybody.
yeah, well, and only people that are our age will get it. I mean,
If you listen to
um,
the radio in the 80s, you'll get that joke.
that's true. That's true. Um, so this one did not get good reviews, but it will always be one of my favorites, and that's Oliver and Company, the story of Oliver Twist, in Animals, and Billy Joel as the Dodger. And hello, Billy Joel is amazing. Bette Midler, Dom DeLuise, just a bunch of talent of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I like the music. Joey Lawrence was the little Oliver cat.
Whoa.
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 That was even before whoa. Um yeah, so I love Oliver and Company. If you haven't seen it, it's fully 80s.
And you know
Music
what's
is
funny?
fully
I've never
80s.
seen Oliver and Company, and I don't know why. Never seen it. That and The Great Mouse
Dude,
Detective are two I've never seen.
what?
Cannot explain why. My brother
You've
watches The
never
Great Mouse
seen
Detective.
Oliver and Company?
Never seen Oliver and Company. It's on Disney Plus. Never seen it. And you know what? You know
Oh
what I've
my
got to
gosh.
do tomorrow?
Cheech Marin
Nothing.
is in it. Well, I guess you're going to
I
watch
know.
Oliver and
Love
Company.
Cheech.
He's lying, he's lying. Cheech as a chihuahua. You have to see Cheech as a chihuahua. Hilarious.
I'm
Hilarious.
just saying. That and The Great Mouse Detective. Never seen him. I saw Tron.
Okay.
That
Yeah, I
wasn't
saw Tron
pleasant,
too.
but I saw it.
Yeah, I did too. I like the ride better than the movie.
I saw The Black Hole. That was awful.
Yeah, Black Hole is a long time ago. Yeah, you're right. Wait, the Black
Yeah.
Hole or the Black Cauldron?
The Black Hole. I liked The Black Cauldron. It was a little dark, but I liked it. But The Black Hole was awful and
The Black
scary.
Hole? Was
And
the
not in
Black
a good
Hole
way. It was just,
the
oh.
that wasn't animated, was it?
No, it was live action. It was
Oh,
terrible.
right.
Ugh.
I forgot about that too.
They were like, we'll do a Star Wars too. They failed.
Oh, didn't. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, you got to
Okay, is
watch
it my
Oliver and
turn? Or is your
Company.
turn?
And no, I just did Oliver and Company, but you have to watch that, and I will watch Waking Sleeping Beauty because I do really want
Okay,
to see that.
yeah. Yeah. My
Okay.
next, I will die on this hill. This was a movie that people kind of really talk bad about. And I think what was happening was Disney was trying to expand the sort of type of animated movie they were doing. And it wasn't, they were like, yes, we can do musical and we can do princess movies. And they were like, let's try to do some more action adventure movies and things of that sort. And people just weren't going for it. But I loved this movie. This is one of those rare movies that I remember going back to the theater 3 times to see this movie because it was gorgeous on the big screen. And also, it was a lot of the character design was based on the work of a comic book artist that I love, Mike Mignola. And I just want to elevate Atlantis: The Lost Empire
Mm-hmm.
I love that movie. I think that
Mm-hmm.
movie is gorgeous. I think the characters are great. I think it
Mm-hmm.
has a really good message. I think it's like, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, and I think it predates it. I'll have to think of the timeline, but it reminds me of the greatest non-Disney animated feature I've ever seen, The Iron Giant, and what it has
Oh,
to
oh,
say
oh.
about sort of like war and military and
Mm,
things of that sort.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, I just loved Atlantis, The Lost Empire. I love the character designs. It was gorgeous. It was fun. And for whatever reason, it came and it went and nobody ever talks about it.
It was Michael J. Fox, right? Wasn't he
It was
the?
Michael J. Fox. Yeah,
Yeah.
did Milo. And for a
Yeah,
while
Milo. Milo.
they had a lot of that stuff in the parks, a couple of those characters, but then
Oh.
it just disappeared.
Hmm. Yeah, I do like that too, and you're right. When I saw that, I was like, yeah, that's definitely an underrated one. I had a feeling
Hmm
you'd pick it. I didn't pick it because I thought you would,
I,
so I was
yeah,
right.
I mean, that's the same with Soul, right? Like, I love
Yeah.
Soul and I knew you were going to pick that one.
Yeah. But that is good, and I think people should see it for sure. Maybe I
Yeah,
should
if you
watch it
haven't
again.
seen it, it's not, I mean, I think the thing is people have a very specific idea of what a Disney movie is, and
Mm,
this doesn't necessarily align with that. It's not like adult or anything. It's an action movie. And it's got some really cool visuals, and there's no songs. It's not a musical at all. Um, but it's just a really good movie, and it's gorgeously animated. That's a theme for most of my picks is gorgeous animation that people seem to
gorgeous
overlook.
animation.
Hmm
I had a tough time with my last one because when it came out, it was super underrated. And the only reason I think it's not underrated anymore is because of video. And I think it's because of the age group of like Emma and Annika, some like kids in their 20s that once this came out on whatever, Netflix probably at the time, then it caught on, but it did not. So I'm just going to say it, whatever. And it's one of my favorites of all time, and it's Emperor's New Groove. And I think that
Saw it in the theater. It was so good.
I saw it in the theater. In fact, did we see it together? Because we saw it in Disney. I know it was that trip when Emma was 11 months and we went to Disney
Mate,
World.
we
I
might
can't
have.
remember if just Ed and I went or if you went too. But I remember it being hilarious and I love the cast. And even though I went just recently, like in the last few years, I went to go see the guy who was the head animator on Emperor's New Groove, who said that David Spade was not fun to work with. Shocker.
He does not seem
Um,
to be the type of person who would be enjoyable to spend time with.
I know, but just, I mean, the whole thing is so funny. And my favorite villain is Yzma. And if you're listening or watching right now and you're like, that is not underrated, think about if you watched it and loved it from the beginning, or is it a recent thing? Because I think
Yeah,
once it hit
it has
Netflix
had
and
time to find its audience, but when it came out, it was
mhm,
kind of a bomb.
it was totally a bomb, and it did find its audience. They even came out with the sequel of Kronk's New Groove, because Patrick Wharton is so funny as Kronk. But I was going back and forth between some because I know that is not as underrated as it was. But that was a great movie. Also, the animation I actually thought was really well done.
Hmm
Just kind of funny animation. So it kind of reminded me a little. It was a little Looney Tune-ish, in the way that they did things, but still had that
Yeah,
Disney-esque
high
vibe.
gag
So
ratio. High gag ratio. I mean, I love Looney Tunes. Looney Tunes,
yeah, 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 yeah,
and it's just a very different type of cartooning. And Looney Tunes is much higher gag ratio than Disney
yeah,
usually has. Disney is much more
yeah,
character driven, and Looney Tunes is more gag driven. And the
yeah.
Emperor's New Groove is very gag driven, like
It's
gag after
so
gag after
funny.
gag. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and so the kids today, I mean, they like it, they know it.
Well,
And
that's
I
because
think
they
it's
grew up
the
and it was like either on Disney Channel or something
yeah.
that they could just watch over and over, and
It was on I know it was on Netflix because it was one of those things that the girls could just find on Netflix and watch. So,
hmm
mhm. Yeah, so
So my
that was my fifth.
yeah. So my last one is the most recent one, and it only came out just a little over a year ago. And I looked at the critics really did not like this movie,
Mhm.
and I want to blame the pandemic, but this one came out to theaters, and I saw it opening night, and there was very few people in the theater, and it was almost like I don't know that Disney just didn't promote it, but
I
it was
think that was
almost
the
like
thing.
nobody really even knew this movie came out. And I thought it was so funny, and I thought it was so cool. Strange World came out in 2022. I saw it in the theater.
I
I
don't
thought it
think people
was
are going to the
fantastic.
theaters still. I still don't think people are going to the theaters
I
a
think
lot.
that might have been it. It's like because I love the theater, I went back to the theater a little earlier than most.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing is the theaters were empty, so I wasn't really worried about, put my
Yeah.
mask on, and I wasn't really worried about it. I remember the last thing I saw in the theaters before COVID was Cats. And so that left a bad
That's
taste in my
sad.
mouth. Although I will still say, not Disney, but if you haven't watched Cats, it's worth a watch because not only is it bad, it's horribly bad. It's
Oh,
embarrassingly bad. It is fascinatingly bad. Sometimes I put on Cats and just go, how, why, who thought this was a good idea? It's so bad that it's entertaining, but that's not
I
Disney. Strange
yeah.
World, great cast, great story. And here's the other thing, and I wonder if this is why Disney didn't promote it. One of the main characters is a gay character, but they don't make kind of a big deal about it. Not in a way of I don't want him to make a big deal about it, but that it is a part of his character, but it's not like
Mhm.
the driving force where it's like the spotlight motivation for him.
Mhm.
And people got mad in previous Disney movies in Finding Dory when there was like a gay couple out of focus way in the back of the scene, and this one of the main characters had a crush on another boy.
Mhm.
Nobody said anything, and I don't know if Disney just didn't want to promote that, but I thought that was really like a cool part. But it was just a really good movie, visually stunning, not as like strikingly beautiful as like Luca or
Right.
Soul, but
Mhm.
just so fascinating, interesting, and really interesting, cool character designs. And again, a movie that is best seen on a big screen. I thought Strange World was wonderful.
So if I have to, and I was one of those people who I wasn't going to the theaters yet. I mean, it took me a long time to go back to the theaters, and I still don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my first choice to go to a theater, and I don't even remember the last movie we saw in a theater. It might have been last Thanksgiving when we were visiting Emma and Fernando. Um, but I think it was one of those things too where I didn't want to go to the theater. I wanted to see it, but it was just never everybody wanting to sit down and say, "Hey, let's watch this," right? And so it just never
Mm-hmm.
happened. Okay, so tonight, if I watch a movie, does it need to be Waking Sleeping Beauty or does it need to be Strange World?
I'd say Waking Sleeping Beauty. I love Strange
Oh,
World, but
okay.
I say if you are at all fascinated by the history of Disney, if you haven't watched Waking Sleeping Beauty, you're missing huge chunks of knowledge about sort of how
Okay.
because if you recall, not only was it like, hey, we made The Little Mermaid and that was a good movie. Like feature animation was pretty much dead. Like
Yeah,
Oliver and Company made no money,
right.
and they
Was that the
literally
one
kicked them off.
before? Was
Yeah,
Oliver and
Oliver and
Company the
Company
one
was
before Little Mermaid?
it
Yeah,
was
I
the
thought so.
immediate movie
Okay.
before Little Mermaid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the Walt Disney Company, Mickey's house was about to shutter feature
Mm-hmm.
animation, right? And the fact that they basically kicked these folks off the lot, and think what would the Disney Company today be if we hadn't had the Disney Renaissance of the Little Mermaid?
There's so many times you could say that about Disney. Like what would the
Mm-hmm.
Disney company be if, they didn't end up going bankrupt? What would the Disney company be if
Well, I
Michael
mean,
Eisner never
I would
stepped in?
say that you could say that about Steamboat Willie. You could say that
Yeah.
about Snow White. You could probably say that about Dumbo. You could say that about, and this might be a topic for a future, sort of podcast. Like, what are the key moments in the history of Disney? But I think one of the big ones is the Little Mermaid.
Oh,
I
that is
think if
huge. I know it
it's
is. I know it is.
massive,
I know it is. I remember
because I
everything
think
about that
before the
so
Little
clearly.
Mermaid, the country was dying since Walt died, and if you think about it, that's from '66 to '89.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the
which was
parks were making
yeah,
a
but
little
then
bit of
that was
money.
our lifetime.
Uh-huh.
That was our growing up years. And so how did we
Uh-huh.
become so fascinated
Yeah.
with it
But
then?
the stuff that we were fascinated with was almost all stuff that was made before we were born.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Thank you, VHS.
Right? You know, other than Robin Hood, was there anything really from that era? And as
Well,
much as I love Robin Hood, you know,
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like the Fox and the Hound and Oliver and Company, I
mhm.
loved, but did I love it because I was already a Disney fan? Probably
Right.
so.
Right. I think they're both good, but they're not keep the company in business good.
No, of course not.
You
Of
know,
course not.
and
Yeah.
and I don't even say Little Mermaid was that, but it was the Disney Renaissance. Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast. Like, come on, like then we're off to the races.
Mulan.
Mulan, you know, all of the
Yeah.
Disney Renaissance era movies, right? Right up to the Princess and the Frog to me personally, but
Yeah.
um,
True story.
yeah. So yeah, if you can only watch one of those, I mean, I think you're gonna love Strange World, but Waking Sleeping Beauty is the one. If you're gonna watch one tonight, Waking Sleeping Beauty.
All right. Okay. I can't talk today. Our duelist, our community duelist, dueling Disney community duelist. What are you going to be watching tonight then? What is your movie tonight? And what did we miss? What are you like? Oh my gosh, you didn't even mention blah. And there's a lot that we haven't mentioned that I was like, ooh, should I? There's
Oh
a
yeah,
lot.
100%.
So yeah,
We
so
could do a whole nother episode of these. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. Tell us what you think. We are on all the socials, and if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe, and you can comment right there. Thank you for those who have done that. It's nice to meet some of you and get some more duelists over with us. Also, I want to say really quick, Ronnie, one of our duelists, both Al and I had the chance to talk to her and talk about Disney fandom, and she's doing a really cool project. So if you are one of our community duelists and you're on the Facebook group, she's on there. So touch base with her if that's the thing you want to do. Anyway, but find us on the socials. Let us know what we missed, and we'll talk to you soon.
please remain seated until the monorail comes to a complete stop. Then collect your belongings, watch your head, and step carefully from the train. On behalf of all of our crew, thanks for traveling with us, and we hope you have a happy and memorable visit here at Dueling Disney. This is the Tomorrowland Podcast Station.